I was working in a pub in Liverpool. An American tourist came in and asked me, "Where can I find the place where the Beatles are from?" I replied, "You're in it. This is Liverpool." He looked at me with genuine confusion and said, "No, I mean the city, the one from the songs. Is it far from here?" He thought Liverpool was just the name of the pub. At a market in Morocco, an American was haggling for a rug. The vendor offered a price. The American countered with, "I'll give you 20 American dollars. That's probably more than you make in a year." Here, right? The vendor, who owned 3 shops and spoke 4 languages, just smiled and sold the rug to the next person for the original price. I was on a flight to Cairo. The American woman next to me asked the flight attendant if the pyramids were visible from the plane. The attendant said, "Yes, on the left side. You should see them," as we approached. The woman then asked, "Are they the big pointy ones or the square ones? I always get them confused with the ones in Mexico." At a restaurant in South Korea, an American was struggling with chopsticks. The waiter politely offered him a fork. The man slammed the chopsticks on the table and said, "No, I want to eat the authentic way. Why did you guys make these so difficult to use? You should redesign them to be more user-friendly." It's a terrible design. I worked in a high-end watch shop in Switzerland. An American came in, looked at our most expensive pieces, and then pulled out his phone. He showed me his Apple Watch and said, "See this? It does everything your watches do, but better. It has apps. It tells me to breathe. Why would anyone pay thousands for your dumb, old-fashioned clocks when they could have real technology?" He then asked if we could install a step counter on a Patek Philippe. I was at a wine tasting in the Bordeaux region of France. The vintner was explaining the concept of terroir, how the soil climate and environment affect the taste of the wine. An American in the group raised his hand and said, "That's a nice story. But what brand of grape juice do you add to it to get the flavor? Is it Welch's?" While backpacking through Vietnam, I met an American who was complaining about the food. "I just don't get it," he said. "They have all the ingredients for a good sandwich, but they just can't get it right. I asked for a banh mi with turkey and Swiss on white bread, and they looked at me like I had 3 heads. It's like they don't even want my money. How hard is it to just make a normal sandwich for a normal person?" A new American manager started at our office in Sydney, Australia. In his first all-hands meeting, he announced a new motivational initiative. He said, "To foster a more competitive and American-style work ethic, we'll be canceling sick days. If you're not in the hospital, you're in the office. We're here to win, not to whine." He was genuinely shocked when HR informed him that this was not only wildly unpopular, but also completely illegal. I was working at a hotel front desk in Norway. An American guest called down furious. He said his room was defective because the sun was still up at 11 p.m. He demanded a refund or a room on the dark side of the building. I had to spend 20 minutes explaining the concept of the midnight sun to a grown man who thought the sun's position was a feature of the hotel. I was on a safari in Kenya. An American in our group asked the guide if we could get out and pet the lions. The guide, for safety reasons, firmly said no. The tourist became indignant. "But I'm an American. I have rights. If I want to pet a lion, I should be allowed to. This is terrible customer service." I was a university student in Spain, and an American exchange student in my class was struggling. One day she complained to the professor in front of everyone. "I don't understand why we have to learn about all this Spanish history. It's not our history. When are we going to learn about the Alamo?" The Spanish professor, a renowned historian on the Spanish Civil War, just stared at her and calmly said, "In your American history class in America." I was working at a gift shop at the Tower of London. An American tourist asked me if the Queen still lived there. I explained that she lived at Buckingham Palace. He then asked, "So this is like her summer home, or is it more of a weekend party castle?" I had to explain the concept of a 1,000-year-old fortress and former prison. A friend of mine in the UK was hosting an American student for a laugh. My friend told him that Wales was a theme park, like Disneyland, but for medieval history. The student believed him. For 2 weeks, he asked questions like, "What time does Wales open? And can we buy a fast pass to get into the castles?" He was planning his trip there when someone finally took pity on him and explained it was an actual country. I was on a train from Brussels to Amsterdam. An American man was talking loudly on his phone to someone back home. He said, "Yeah, I'm in Belgium right now. It's the capital of France, I think. Or maybe Germany. It's hard to tell. They all speak weird versions of English here. Anyway, I'll be in Holland later. That's where the Danish live. I'm going to get me one of those pastries." The entire carriage was listening in horrified silence. I'm a park ranger in the Canadian Rockies. An American tourist flagged me down, looking very concerned. He asked, "Excuse me, What time do you guys turn the waterfalls off at night? I was a bit confused and told him they run 24/7. He looked disappointed and said, oh, in Vegas, they turn the fountains off to save power. I figured you do the same. Seems like a waste of water to just let them run all night when no one's here to see them. My Dutch friend was talking to an American tourist who asked, why are all the buildings so skinny and crooked? It looks like they're all about to fall over. Don't you guys have like building codes? My friend tried to explain the history of the canal, houses, how they were taxed on width, and how the soil has settled over centuries. The American just scoffed and said, sounds like an excuse for bad construction. In Texas, our buildings are big and straight, the way God intended. I was working as a tour guide at the Colosseum in Rome. An American couple on my tour seemed genuinely angry. The husband finally pulled me aside and said, listen, we paid good money for this tour. This is unacceptable. I asked what the problem was. He pointed at the structure and said, it's completely broken. Why haven't you guys fixed it yet? There are holes everywhere. We have ruins in the States and we at least try to keep them looking nice. This is just lazy. He was dead serious. Overheard in a cafe in Vienna, Austria. An American student was telling her friend, I hate it here. They're so obsessed with Mozart and all that old classical stuff. It's so boring. Why can't they be more modern? Like, where are the statues of Taylor Swift? She's way more important to music history than some guy in a wig. My friend works at the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam. He said the most common and heartbreakingly stupid question he gets from American tourists is, if they were hiding, why did they write a book about it? Seems like a bad way to keep a secret. He has to gently explain the concept of a diary versus a published book almost every day. My friend was a server at a traditional pub in Dublin. A group of American tourists came in, and one woman loudly declared she wanted an authentic Irish coffee. My friend made her a classic one hot coffee, Irish whiskey sugar, and a layer of thick cream on top. The woman took one sip and recoiled. What is this? There's no Baileys. There's no green creme de menthe. I've had real Irish coffee at TGI Fridays in Ohio, and it's nothing like this garbage. Are you even Irish? I was at a beautiful, quiet onsen hot spring in rural Japan. The rules of silence and respect were posted everywhere. An American tourist walked in talking on his phone on speaker. He then proceeded to try and order a pizza to be delivered to the onsen. When the staff tried to quietly explain this was not possible, he yelled. What do you mean no delivery? This is a resort. I'm a paying customer. Get me your manager. While visiting the ancient city of Pompeii, I overheard an American teenager complain to his father, this is so lame. It's just a bunch of old dusty rocks. Why couldn't they have been buried by something cool like lava? That would have been way more interesting. His father was trying to explain that they were, in fact, buried by a volcanic eruption. At a five-star restaurant in Lyon, France, known for its exquisite cuisine, an American family was seated next to me. After looking at the menu for a few minutes, the father called the sommelier over. He didn't ask for a wine recommendation. Instead, he asked, do you guys have any Bud Light or maybe a Coors? And what about some ranch dressing for the bread? The sommelier's soul visibly left his body before he politely replied, no, monsieur. An American tourist in Berlin, standing in front of a remaining section of the Berlin Wall, asked a guide, so which side was the good side and which was the bad side? The guide started to explain the complex history of East and West Germany. The tourist interrupted. Just tell me which side was the USA side. That's the good one, obviously. My sister is a teacher at an international school in Italy. A new student from the US was in her class. During a geography lesson, my sister pointed to Italy on the map. The American kid raised his hand and said, wait, I thought Italy was shaped like a boot. That doesn't look like a boot. That's just a weird leg. Are you sure that's the right map? My cousin works for the Icelandic Coast Guard. He told me they once got a distress call from an American tourist who had rented a car. The man was panicking, saying his car was being attacked by a hurricane. A rescue team was dispatched. They found him parked by the side of the road, completely safe in what was just a typically windy Icelandic day. He was from Arizona and had never experienced winds stronger than a gentle breeze. A friend who works in IT in India was on a conference call with a new manager from the US. The manager said, okay, team, I want to build synergy. So first things first, can you all tell me which one of you is the chief and which of you are the Indians? There was a dead silence before someone had to explain that he was using an offensive American colloquialism to a team of actual Indians.